And finally tonight, the art market lets out a large and pricey scream.
I started bidding here at $40 million. 41, 42, 43 already, at 43 million. 44 is bid, 45 in the room.
It's one of the most iconic works of art in the world, Edvard Munch's The Scream. The Norwegian expressionist painter created 4 versions of it, 3 of which are hanging in museums in Oslo. The 4th, a pastel from 1895, is in private hands and was auctioned at Sotheby's last night in a bidding war that came down to 2 undisclosed finalists making offers over the phone.
Do not worry. At $99 million, I have all the time in the world.
The winner, anonymous. The price, a whole lot.
Now, the world record for any work of art sold at auction is this painting, Edvard Munch's The Scream, and it made with buyer's premium $119,900,000.
And we're joined now by Kelly Crow of the Wall Street Journal. She covers the art market and was at the auction last night. Well, Kelly, in the strange world of the art market, what makes something worth $120 million?
Well, I'm still a little bleary-eyed. I'm still trying to get over being up till 2 a.m. I was pretty wired after the sale. I got to tell you, there is such an adrenaline rush to the theater of the auction room when you can go in thinking that a painting could go for 40 million, 80 million, and it only takes a handful of billionaires really to ratchet it up, you know, upwards of 120. So some of it is just a fluke of the moment, and then some of it is very well thought out strategy by some of the world's wealthiest people about what they value most and where they really want to store their cash.
The winner was anonymous, right? What are the clues, or what's the thinking on who might have got it?
Yeah, that's sort of the parlor game of my day, really, is canvassing the 1,700 odd billionaires around the world to try to see which one is hanging it up at home. There are some clues. Charlie Moffat, who is a vice chairman at Sotheby's, who fielded the winning telephone bid, he is a former, National Gallery guy here in the States, and he often pals around with some of the big American billionaires who collect modern art. So I'm kind of sticking for the moment at this continent, but certainly there were underbidders from China who were in the game at least upwards of $95 million, and Europeans as well. So there were 5 at the start, and I think they probably reflect a global spread.
Well, you're talking about scouring the world of billionaires. How does this fit into the larger art market, and why this particular painting, this Scream? Why would this one be the one that sets a record at auction?
You're coming in after about, a decade of wealth creation around the world, and there are so many new people popping up sort of in all 4 corners who now really want to announce themselves to the world, announce their status, and also, find safe places necessarily to store some income. And art just feels like something that's not going to evaporate like a stock or a bond, maybe, given the vagaries of things. The painting, you feel like you could roll up and put in your suitcase if you have to. So that's why, and also it's just fun. I think baby boomers and the generations that have come after that are really savvy. They do a lot of research on the internet. They're traveling a lot more, so they come across a lot more art. And they just sort of this notion of having an original on the wall is something that feels attainable to them, I think, in a way that maybe, to their great-grandparents, unless you were a blue blood, it didn't even occur to you to try for that. If you're going to go for the gold, I think The Scream makes a pretty good case. It's one of those rare paintings that you can just say the title of, and a good proportion of the world knows what you're talking about. I think just the sheer branding power of that imagery is pretty compelling. The painting that it outranked was a work by Picasso called Nude, Green Leaves, and Bust. And Picasso, iconic artist, but not everyone can conjure that image just by thinking of the title, whereas The Scream is really sort of a household name, all by itself.
Well, it's fun, you say. The prices keep going up and up, but is there a serious side? Is there a potential of a bubble here? What happens then?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a risk when we're talking about art, and I think a lot of people probably do lull themselves into thinking that if they just buy a lot of art, that they'll get their money back. And art is a certainly very risky investment. It's, you know, only a handful of artists in any given century are going to wind up in the textbooks. So you gamble really big and, you know, let's hope you pick the winner. But, you know, odds are never very sure until the thing is done. With Munch, well-known, you know, iconic Norwegian painter, one of those guys who really helped us switch, missing link guys, if you will, from, you know, impressionism to abstraction. One of those guys who was the first to really decide to paint his own tortured emotions rather than the fields and the poppies around him. So he matters. He's definitely in the textbooks. You know, if you're going to spend your money on a yacht or a Munch, you know, I probably would take the painting too.
All right. those of those who can take the painting, right? Kelly
Sure,
Crow of
why
the
not?
Wall Street Journal. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.